to order. Good for them. Carlos, can you take roll?
Yes. Board Member Weber,
Here.
Board Member Hartman,
Here, sorry, mute.
no problem. Board Member Malik,
Here.
Board Member Zobel,
Here.
Board Member Cicero,
Here.
Board Member Jurgel,
Here.
and Chairman Gerstein.
Here.
And then I'll let the minutes reflect that our council liaison, Jay Gregory Carl, is also in attendance, along with staff, which is myself, Carlos Trejo, the Director of Planning and Community Development, and Don Doty, our Senior Planner.
Thank you. And Carlos, I'll let you get us started tonight.
All right, you can bear with me. I'll post up the agenda. And everybody should be seeing the agenda in front of them. We have one appeal tonight regarding 29 Crabapple Court. I'm just going to go over some of the procedures regarding both how we conduct our Zoom meeting and also how we, what is the process for the Board of Adjustment. If you have any questions, please let me know. So there are virtual meetings, and then of course the procedures for the Zoning Board of Adjustment, which are outlined by state statutes. To participate in virtual Zoom meetings, there's an opportunity for public comments. We ask anybody that wants to speak before the board to raise their hand. We'll transfer you from an attendee to a panelist at the chair's request, and we ask you to limit your comments to 3 minutes. The petitioners are given, or the applicants are given a prolonged time in there. That's anybody that wants to speak in regards to the petition that's not involved with the applicant. When you speak, both the applicants and anybody that wants to speak from the public, please note your name and address, and we urge you to have your video on when you speak. All speakers must be sworn in. Don, I'm going to ask you, Doty, if that's okay, you should have the wording for the swearing in as part of your packet. Public comments may be submitted in writing or read aloud by staff, and in this case, we have not received any. And we ask for some patience because sometimes we have a short delay with the live stream, or you know, trying to get people to find where the little hand or get the recognition shown on the monitors, or seeing that there's somebody that wants to speak. So we will move that process a little bit slower. For petitioners and presenters, we ask, you know, all reports and plans are accessible via the link on the agenda. Staff provides an overview. Applicants address staff comments and commissioner board member questions, and all votes conducted are roll call votes. So that means each person will be asked in terms of how they would like to vote. Procedures for the Board of Adjustment. The Board of Adjustment has jurisdiction when there's an error in terms of how an interpretation is made regarding the city's zoning regulations, to interpret the provisions of the zoning regulations when there's conflict within the maps, to permit a public service utility or corporation to do specific improvements, and to permit the reconstruction of a non-conforming use that was damaged by an act of God, and most importantly, is to grant relief from the strict application of the zoning ordinance to a specific piece of property by issuing an area or use variance. When the commission considers an area variance, it has to be justified that there's a unique condition to the property regarding its width, depth, shape, its topography, or other exceptional circumstances that are not created by the property owner or landowner, and that the strict application would result in the practical difficulty almost creating, depriving the property owner of reasonable use of the property. And the variance would not unreasonably affect adjacent properties, and the variance would observe the spirit of the zoning ordinance and secure public safety and welfare and do substantial justice, and the variance would satisfy the additional criteria for variances, which is compliance with the strategic plan or comprehensive plan, not impede light, air to adjacent properties, and not create traffic issues on there. But most importantly is the and sections in number 1 and 2 It's not hard to meet 3, 4, and 5 or to justify 3, 4, and 5, but 1 and 2 are the ones that really the applicant or petitioner has to submit evidence that there are unique conditions to the property, or that and not just and that there are practical difficulties with the application of the code that deprive them from viable use of their property. Each appeal is heard separately. Public hearings consist of presentations, first by staff, followed by the applicant, and then public comments. After the public comments, the board will close the meeting and begin deliberations. We need at least 4 votes to grant an appeal. Therefore, it's important that only 5 members or 5 regular members participate in the voting. And all those wishing to speak, including staff and the applicant, are, of course, need to be sworn in for the record.
Wow. I couldn't have said that better myself.
Summarizes the procedures, and be glad to answer any questions, and if not, ready to read the public hearing notice.
None? Okay. So Rob, would you like to read the public hearing notice for us?
I would be happy to.
Thank you.
Yeah, public hearing notice, 29 Crabapple Court. The Board of Adjustment of the City of Olivet, Missouri will hold a public hearing on Thursday, July 8th, 2021 at 7 p.m. Central Time. The meeting will be conducted via Zoom webinar. The link will be available at www.olivetmo.com//agenda center. The meeting is regarding to the following application. The owner is Janet Mueller. Petitioner is Jeff Day. I was actually looking at that, Carlos, if you could put it back. Actually, I now have it. Petitioner is Jeff Day with Jeff Day and Associates regarding a single family residential district. And it's regarding a 13-foot rear yard setback variance to permit a residential addition 11 feet from the property line. A 24-foot rear yard setback is required by code. Code section that's applicable is section 400.260, yard and setback requirements, subparagraph C, rear yard setback.
Thank you. Carlos, would you like to? Oh yeah. Just show us.
Okay, I'm ready to start the presentation. Chairman, the first thing would be to get sworn in, and if Ms. Doty can read the oath, it should be part of your packet stuff.
I have it.
Okay.
Do you swear that the evidence you shall give to the board in this action shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do. And good evening, board members. My name is Carlos Trejo. Again, I'm the Director of Planning and Community Development for the City of Olivet. And tonight I'm going over the petition application for 29 Crabapple Court and the specific variance request to section 400-260 of the chapter 400, our zoning regulations. And this is regards to yard and setback requirements, more specifically the rear yard setback. The rear yard setback, the way it's set under our zoning ordinance, is 20% of the lot depth, but in no case shall a rear yard setback be less than 20 feet. And we'll have this discussion on this section throughout this petition. First, the property is 29 Crabapple Court and it's zoned SR single family residential zoning district. The purpose for the SR district is to provide the opportunity for detached single family residences. The intent of the district is to protect, preserve, and conserve existing areas predominantly of single family detached dwellings in there. The location of 29 Crabapple Court is just north of Ingle Lane, which heads west of Gilman Road. It's kind of nestled between Olive Boulevard and Ingle Lane. It kind of has a loop around road with a small cul-de-sac on the eastern side. 29 Crabapple Court is on the northern end and abuts commercial property off of Olive Boulevard. The commercial property is now vacant. It used to be the old, the vacated Ponderosa building in there. As you see, you can see a property aerial of the property here at the lower right-hand corner of the slide. It's an existing single-family home with a 2-car attached garage, projection outward behind the home, and it's adjacent on each side to other single-family homes within the same subdivision. These are aerial views of the rear yard, which is going to be the topic in question. You can see on the upper left-hand corner, the existing rear yard looking west. It's a pretty flat yard. There are no unique conditions on the property outside of a budding commercial property to its north. There is a retaining wall that runs on the commercial property line. And then there's a couple of feet of that commercial property before you're actually on the property itself. On the lower right corner, you can see a view looking east. That would be like if you were looking towards Dealman of the property. And again, the property is fairly flat. On the left side, you can see the retaining wall for the commercial property directly north. Under Article 4 SR Single Family Residential Zoning District, there is section 400-260 yard and setback requirements. So that section sets the setback requirements that they're applied to the front, the side, and the rear. Specifically, subparagraph C is about rear yard setbacks. The rear yard setbacks vary. Not every yard in Olivet has the same rear yard setback because it's based on a percentage. In this case, it's a percentage of 20% of the lot depth, but in no case should it be less than 20 feet. By keeping a percentage application to the rear yard setback, it takes into account that deeper lots will have deeper setbacks and shallow lots will have shallower setbacks because they're all based on a percentage. So it takes into account that not all lots in Olivet have equal depths and such, and therefore it doesn't impact or place a bar or standard so long as it's no less than 20 feet, of course. In this case, 29 Crabapple Court, based on the information that was submitted by the applicant, it has a lot depth of 120 feet. So the calculated rear yard setback would be the 120 feet times the 20%, or in this case, a 24-foot rear yard setback. Here in this slide, this is the boundary and improvement survey that was provided as part of the application. The red line represents the rear yard setback, and you can see the existing home on the site grounds, the property dimensions. It's pretty much a rectangular lot. It's got a width of about 150 feet, a depth of about 120 feet, going north to south on each side. And the rear yard setback again is that red line showing the 24-foot mark in there. What I've done here on this slide here, I highlighted in this pinkish color the 24-foot rear yard setback area. And then in gray have identified the addition that's being proposed that's being considered by the property owners. Now, the first part in this process is because of the size of the addition, regardless of where the location is, has to submit for community design review, in this case, site plan review through the city's Planning and Community Design Commission. The city's Planning and Community Design Commission is in charge of the architectural review, design review, zoning review, and stormwater review. However, when a petition that is submitted does not comply with code, that commission doesn't have any authority to review or approve something that isn't consistent with the city's zoning regulations. Therefore, when the applicant applied for the commission review in April, it was denied in there because I could not forward it to the commission. So in this case, the Board of Adjustment does have authority if the petitioner seeks to review the petitioner's application for justification of a variance. But the Board of Adjustment is not here to review the aesthetics of the home, the design of the home, or the stormwater impacts of the home. Those will be done through the commission process if the application proceeds as submitted or under any conditions, or is resubmitted later down the road in there. So again, the commission's here solely to kind of review whether there is justification for the encroachment into that rear yard setback area by roughly an additional 13 feet in there. The required setback would be 24. they're looking for an 11-foot setback. Findings in this application, just to note for the board, is that the property is zoned single-family residential. It's legally known as Lot 29 of the Crabapple Court subdivision. The home was built in 1956, the original home, and then there was an addition subsequently placed on the property. The current owner purchased the property in March in 1999 based on St. Louis County records. It's a legal lot of record. It is considered non-conforming due to the lot depth, but in this case, it's still a legal lot of record within the SR district. Section 400-260 yard and setback requirements of Chapter 400 or zoning regulations varies rear yard setbacks based on the proportion of lot depth, but in no case shall any lot be less than 20 feet. I need to continue to stress that. The property is improved. There's an existing single-family home on the property grounds with a 2-car side entry garage, and there are no unique visible conditions with the subject property. It appears flat based on the aerial information that's been obtained via Google and being at the site. There are no unique natural features to the site. There are no creeks. There are no channels. There are no drop-off points that impact viable use of the rear yard. And the property is rectangular, so it has no unique or awkward shapes on it. Again, the jurisdiction of the board is to consider whether there's an alleged error in terms of how the code was applied, to interpret provisions of the code when there's conflict with the zoning map, to permit public service utilities or corporations to do improvements, to permit reconstruction of non-conforming buildings which were destroyed by a fire or other act of God, and finally to grant relief from the strict application of the zoning ordinance to a specific piece of property by issuing an area or use variance. In considering a area variance, the property has to have a unique condition that's relating to its width, depth, shape of the lot, its topography, or other exceptional circumstances not created by the owner. This variance is strictly considered on the basis of what the lot has and what conditions are within the lot. It has nothing to do with the occupants, owners of the property. The strict application of the zoning ordinance would result in a practical difficulty that almost would deny viable use of the property, that it won't impact adjacent properties, that it observes the spirit of the zoning ordinance, and finally that it satisfies the additional criteria of that section, which is, again, preserves light, air to adjacent properties, does not provide adverse traffic impacts, and is consistent with the city's comprehensive plan. Chairman, I'd like to enter a couple of items for the record, and then I'd be glad to answer any specific questions if there's anything else.
Please do. Thank you.
Okay, for the record, these are items that would be submitted on the findings that were discussed by staff and that are to be reviewed by the commission. One is the application for site plan and community design review dated April 7th, along with the plans dated April 7th, 2021, which are the same plans that were used for the Board of Adjustment application. The denial letter in the form of an email from the city dated April 21st, 2021. The Board of Adjustment application received May 17th, 2021, including its attachments, which is the plans that were dated April 7th, 2021. The public hearing notice and the affidavit of publication in the St. Louis County and the list of properties that were notified as required by a state statute and by a city code. The staff report dated July 8th, 2021. This PowerPoint presentation, and then the City of Olivet Code of Ordinances, including Chapter 400 zoning regulations, the zoning map of the City of Olivet, and of course the city's comprehensive plan.
Perfect. Any questions for Carlos?
Yeah, so I understand then that 20-foot minimum requirement.
That is the minimum by code that's been adopted for all single-family residential districts.
Does the board, therefore, does this board have the power to just reject that?
If you have findings and justification in terms that there's unique conditions with the property, that by not granting it, that you would create a difficulty that almost creates a takings, And then the remaining portion of that list in there that it would impact adjacent properties. It would observe the spirit of the zoning ordinance, which is hard to justify if 20 is the bare minimum. And it would satisfy the additional variance criteria, meaning the light, air, traffic, and comprehensive plan.
I guess that's what I'm focusing on. I don't see immediately, at least, my way through that.
I have a question, Carlos.
Yes, sir.
You made mention that there was an existing two-car garage on the east end. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Do you by chance have a, okay. Okay, thank you.
Now we get you.
Where is the addition going? Looking at this particular frame?
Bear with me 1 second. The
Is it up?
addition would extend out from this area out through approximately 11 feet from the rear lot line. Note, there is a retaining wall for the commercial property in the back. There are a couple of feet or a foot in front of that wall that's actually part of the commercial property, but pretty much it's their backyard goes up to that retaining wall. The petition applications, bear with me 1 second. And I'm assuming you're seeing the survey at this point.
We're still seeing the aerial photo.
All right. Sorry about that.
I think it's the next.
All right. You should be seeing now the building plan showing the addition. So you see right here is the existing two-car garage. Then there's a notch here on the back of the house, and then it goes out 20 feet, and then the addition would extend an additional 28 feet. Now I'm going to go back to that aerial. Bear with me 1 second. So you should be seeing the aerial right now, and you see these two, the sliding doors here.
Yeah.
That addition starts 28 feet from the back of that bump out here and extends outward into the rear yard.
Okay.
And the primary purpose is to add two more garages or two more parking spaces, right?
Correct, which also include a couple of other items that are noted in the plan set. So I just want to make sure that the commission takes a look at those. Bear with me 1 second.
That's a workroom,
Correct.
And a bathroom
a bathroom.
and some more storage.
So there's a woodworking room, a powder room, a storage, the increased garage depth here, and then the other garage door here.
Any other?
The working shop is 8 feet.
The woodworking shop measures about approximately, it's 14 feet in depth and about 8 feet wide. So you have the 8 feet here and a 14-foot here, followed by a deck behind it.
And is that measurement from where you're pointing right now to the rear of the lot? It's at 11 feet now?
At this corner back here, you can see my cursor, that would measure out to be 11 feet.
Okay. And if it were to be built, it would be 8 feet off that? So it'd be what, 19 feet?
No, this is the 11 feet would be this direction here, going up and down on the monitor.
Understand, okay.
So this point here is roughly 25 feet. This back corner is roughly 25 feet from the property line.
Okay.
So are they 13 feet over the setback?
That is correct. 13 feet beyond the 24-foot max.
So what gets cut off minus 13 feet, is that part of the second garage space?
Pretty much.
Correct.
Do we know
So
what
if
their-
you were to reduce, if you were to remove this garage 2, which is the extended garage here, or flip this garage and move it back this way, they would be compliant with code. It would be 1 foot below if I'm calculating correctly, because if it's 11 feet plus the 14, there would be 25 feet from the rear lot line.
Right.
Are they planning to keep the existing garage also a garage? Do we know that? We can ask them too.
That's something, yeah, you had to check with the petitioners. There's not enough information on the plan set to give me that detail. I know we had discussions with them on it. So here is the side entry here. Yeah, so the old garage is somewhere on this end, and it's not shown on the plan set.
Is the entrance on the front of the house? Because I can't tell from the aerial view. The existing garage, is the door?
It's a
Facing the
side entry
street?
garage. Bear
Oh,
with
it's a
me one
side
second,
entry?
Don. And,
I'm just curious, the driveway and,
okay, so here's the Google aerial. I'm gonna go to the street. Here's Crabapple
Okay.
Court. Here's the entrance in here. And then again, if I tilt the property, bear with me. It's a side entry garage
oh, side entry. Okay, I see it.
right here.
Oh, I saw it.
Yeah.
Behind the tree there. Okay, I see the door.
Right.
Can we hear from the owner?
Yeah.
Chairman, as soon as you're set.
Yeah, let's do it. Have them, bring them up and have them sworn in, please.
Okay, Mr. Day, I'm promoting you to a panelist in there. And then if you are the applicant, and if there's anybody else that's going to be speaking with you as part of the application. There are 2 other attendees, but the applicant is Mr. Day. And I would assume that the other 2 will also be speaking.
They're there?
Mr. Day?
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't know that was a question for me.
Yeah.
I don't know who the other 2 are because I can't see them.
I have Janet Mueller and Brandon Mueller.
Yes, so those are the owners.
Okay,
I'm sure they will also want to speak, and maybe you can make all of us live and unmute at the same time, potentially.
okay, we'll go to, all 3 will have to be sworn in though.
Yes,
Okay,
and I apologize. I think you know this from the last meeting, Carlos. We are actually, as an architecture firm, set up for sketching in meetings like this and do not have a camera for ourselves. So I apologize if you guys can't see my beautiful face today.
Do you want to go ahead with the oath, or do you want me to go ahead
Please.
with the oath?
yes.
Yeah, you could swear in. Well, you do it one at a time. For all-
That'd be best for the record.
Yeah,
Well, I'm sorry, what was that, 1 at a time, correct?
One
Yes, please.
All right. Jeff Day, do you swear that the evidence you shall give to the board in this action shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, I do.
Noted.
so
Okay, go ahead with the other 2. It's Janet Mueller is the owner of record.
Okay, Janet Mueller, do you swear that the evidence you shall give to the board in this action shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, I do.
So noted.
Lab.
Brandon Mueller, I believe he's Ms. Mueller's son.
Yes, he is.
Okay.
Perfect. Brandon Mueller, do you swear that the evidence you shall give to the board in this action shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? So help you God. So noted. Thank you.
Carlos, if you don't mind, I think I'll start. And then let the Muellers kind of chime in as we go. I don't believe I saw the letter of hardship as part of the documents you showed tonight, but I do outline several things in there that I'd like to go over. First of all, it is a non-conforming lot, as Carlos had mentioned. Conforming lots would be 150 feet deep, so 30 additional feet deep, which causes a problem for us, obviously, because of the placement of the house. You have a streetscape that has pretty much all of the homes aligned on the street, which, you know, you're not going to change in this case, obviously. But most importantly, I think it's the need. So the Muellers have a family member that had a stroke, and then subsequently that caused an amputation. So they have a family member confined to a wheelchair. And so they need to get a van for people with disabilities. And I think most of you have seen, these are very large vehicles, hence the new garage. So this isn't just to put a couple of cars in, this is a bigger necessity. If you look at the floor plan, you'll notice we actually show space for a wheelchair lift to come out and open up. We've also added that powder room there. You'll see the circle dashed in there. That's typical of most drawings that are drawn to meet ADA requirements. That's a 5-foot diameter circle. This home, again, built when it was, they didn't really care about people with disabilities. So they don't have a bathroom in this house that fits the needs of someone in a wheelchair. So we thought as we're building this, it made the most sense to go ahead and get at least a powder room. They can help someone get into a bathtub pretty easily when need be. But to get this in and have it meet those requirements made the most sense because this is all new construction. I heard the question asked regarding the existing garage. So phase 2 does include that being finished in some way. However, this home doesn't have a basement, it's a slab on grade. So currently it's being used as storage and whatnot. It does have future plans, but right now with construction costs the way they are, they really can only afford this part of the project. And then regarding the neighbors and whatnot, I had a conversation with Carlos months ago, probably 4+ months ago, regarding all of the different ways we looked at trying to get this to work. Obviously, if we put it off the side of the home, we're still asking for a variance, but we're also then starting to put a large building up against the neighboring houses. And what you folks may not know about the retaining wall that runs along the rear of the properties where all the commercial properties are, is that it's between 5 and 6 feet tall. And then it has a fence on top of that that's another 5 or 6 feet tall. And I have some good pictures of that if you want me to share my screen, but it looks like, I think those are probably good enough. So you can see that that wall goes to both neighbors' yards as well. And so if we ask for a variance to put that garage kind of nestled into that area of the house that kind of abuts the living room and the rear of the existing garage, we're really starting to close the neighbor's property in as well. If we looked at the other side, again, we're looking for a variance, but it starts to render other parts of the home useless. puts us in the position of needing another curb cut. So there's really nowhere to put it on the other side. So I feel like we've considered all of those different components, and obviously with it being a non-conforming lot, those additional 30 feet, if it was a conforming lot, would certainly allow this project to happen. I'll open the floor to either questions or to Brandon or Janet if they'd like to share anything additional.
All right, I guess anybody have questions for the applicants? Because they're all sworn in, so anybody could answer.
Could we hear more directly from the owners?
Brandon, would you like to chime in? Would you like to make some comments, and then I'll piggyback on that.
Yeah. My hope was this evening. Hello, everyone, by the way. And say also thank you to Carlos for taking the time to actually come out to the house.
Hey, Brandon, your audio is coming in very low.
So,
Yeah.
go ahead while
Are you there, Brandon?
I am. I'm just
Okay.
We could just say, you guys have questions for the applicants at all?
Sorry, is that better?
Yes.
Okay. So first, let me say thank you to Carlos for taking the time to come out to the house. To talk with us. I really appreciate that.
Cutting out again, I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's not good.
Rats. Well, we would very much like to thank Carlos for coming to our home to talk with us and, so that we can share an understanding about why we want to move forward with this project. It's very important to us we love where we live. We just need to make some changes so that we can continue living here and live a good life and make sure that it's very functional for all members of our family.
Anybody have any questions for the applicants?
I'll start off and ask a
Thank you.
question if you don't mind. Have you guys looked into maybe not having that additional garage, but still maybe be able to fit in a powder room or anything else, and that way you wouldn't need that variance? I know you're going to lose your garage space, but has that been possible?
You mean not build the garage? I find the garage very important because we're going to be getting a van, and our loved one. Yeah.
Janet, I'm sorry. I meant you're putting on two garages, two garage spaces. So I meant, the smaller one, not building that one, but building, the larger one so you can get your handicapped accessible van in place.
Oh, I hear what you're saying. Well,
Okay.
there, our loved one is a artist, and so right now the current garage is a studio. Plus, we're lacking a lot of storage, and if you have a loved one who has some changes, you understand that you need additional storage for equipment and so forth, and because there's a lot of change in the house. So it's the current garage is not being used as a garage. It's being used as a storage area for needed equipment, and also so that Victor can access materials to live his life as a ceramic artist. So that is why we would like to have the 2 spaces, so that I can park my car in a garage, and we can also park the van in the garage. The cars are very expensive and the van is very expensive. So, you know, it's hard for me to, I don't want to leave the car out exposed to the elements, or the van. And also, I think that it's very important that we have access from the house to the garage and space for Victor to enter the van. It's not easy to endure a lot of heat or cold. You know, to not have a garage that you can enter and just get into the van would be a hardship for us, I would say.
What are the future plans for the garage that Mr. Day mentioned?
You mean the current garage?
Correct. I'm sorry. Thank you.
Sure. The current garage is storage right now. That I have no basement. And so we are very lacking storage and a place to have access to needed equipment for living. And also, you know, we're using it right now so that Victor can engage in rehab. He's a ceramic artist, and so we keep things in there that he can utilize. Right now we're at home, and we need to do whatever we can to continue moving and living.
Understood. Understood. I was more curious about, I heard there was a phase 2 that was.
Oh, eventually, I believe that it will become a bedroom.
Yeah, so to clarify a bit on that, is my audio better? I'm sorry.
Yes.
Okay,
Much
great.
better.
Thank you. Sorry about that. So to clarify, that garage space currently is not really a 2-car space. It's really more like a oversized 1-car, if you will. And the space, as she said, ideally would become probably what we would legally or draw up as a bedroom, but ideally still be used for this kind of space for Victor to be able to do ceramic artwork in. Currently, it's just a typical garage, so it's not insulated very well or those sorts of things. So ideally, we would finish it and have it as part of the conditioned envelope of the home, so that, you know, obviously during, you know, any, you know, weather when it's, you know, incredibly hot or cold, that this can be normal conditioned space, just like the rest of the home, so that he could work in this space in, you know, in some relative comfort. In addition to that, you know, it would also allow for, you know, some closets, things like that, to create some more functional storage for them as well in that space. And then I think part of this would mean that there would no longer be a garage door there, but that would probably be replaced with, you know, some windows or that sort of thing facing that side. I'm not sure if there's any other questions I can clarify there specifically to the garage space, but
I have a question.
Sure.
How long has it been, Janet, since you have used it as a garage? Have you parked your car in there? How long has it been?
Sure. This situation has, I guess it's been since August is when this all started. And so we're just trying to make changes so that we can live, basically. Yeah.
Your car has been out in the driveway since last August?
Yes. And, you know,
you used it as a garage before that?
Before that, I was able to, now and we're lacking space. So we're just trying to find a way to meet everybody's needs.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question, but it's kind of a two-part. Carlos, earlier, I believe you were looking at this picture that we have up on the computer here. You indicated that if we moved part of this garage, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I believe you said that the addition would be conforming. They could facilitate, I guess, what they're trying to accomplish. Can you kind of discuss that? And then I guess the second part is, Mr. Day, could you comment on what Carlos said about moving the proposed structure in a manner that would conform?
Well, if you don't mind, I'd like to start.
Okay.
If we can go to the floor plan, Carlos, please. All right, so you need clearance to open the doors. You need clearance for the wheelchair platform. And so the reality is it still wouldn't be conforming. Would it be closer to conforming? Yes, but it still would not be conforming. So I want to make sure that that's understood. If you look, we see we've kind of dashed in the footprint of the vehicle that they've purchased. These are things that you have to order way in advance. And then the wheelchair platform that comes out the side. And then we've tried to take care to give them room that they could open the driver door or passenger door in the front without banging into walls. So I just wanted to make sure that was clear.
Also, if I may, to clarify, the wheelchair lift that comes out the side of the vehicle requires a pretty considerable amount of room to operate. So if we were to try and, limit this down into just the single car to accommodate the van, you'll see the bump out that's out of the existing residence there. You'll see it. That is that's the chimney for the existing fireplace. And so if we went down to a single car style garage, we still, as Jeff said, we wouldn't be able to conform because we would need more room than just this single bay to allow the lift to operate while in the garage. Because ideally, obviously, we'd love to, the loading process into the van can take some time. And so to not have to do that in the rain or, weather, that sort of inclement weather would be ideal. And so because we already have to make a pretty considerable amount of space for the size of the wheelchair, which is a little bit larger than the average wheelchair. It's a motorized kind of larger unit. So it requires some considerable clearance to be able to simply maneuver it around to get it onto the lift and then, operate the lift completely. Otherwise, without the space, it kind of defeats the purpose altogether.
Any other questions?
Chairman, I'll go ahead and answer Mr. Zobo's comments regarding that. And again, the issue is the proposed design and trying to maximize, what the needs of the property owner or the architect's clients in this case, and to address the issues that they have to they're confronted with in terms of access, accessibility, and those items. And what we note here, what's noted in our staff report, what we've discussed with the architect and the property owners is again, they're proposing 2 garage bays in there, but they just don't have that depth to be able to accommodate that at the extent of both of them being, wider than the traditional garage bay, or so. There's just not the setback or the buildable area within this property to do both and to do both with that same width requirement. Yes, it is my opinion that one of those bays can be completed within the buildable area of the property in there, but you can't do both. If there is a need for some additional space to accommodate one of those bays because certain obstructions, then that's something I think, more within the means of what the Board of Adjustment can consider. Because again, in no case does the code authorize for a rear yard setback to be less than 20 feet. So the board could look at the 24-foot setback required to this property, look at the 20-foot minimum set by law to all other properties, and consider maybe the additional 4 feet to widen a one-bay garage to accommodate the needs of the van, the lift, the obstructions that are coming out from the existing home. But you can't do both. It's just too there's just not enough space on the property grounds to do it in this configuration.
Also, as just a small side note, I know I don't believe this is part of the conditions of other examples where this variance has been broken or this code has been broken throughout the neighborhood. But even just 2 doors down from us, I believe it's 31 Crabapple, also has a detached garage that is well beyond this setback, this minimum setback. I understand that the code has changed, over some time, but if we look throughout the neighborhood, even within less than a quarter of a mile of the home, there's easily 6 or 7 examples of where this setback is being broken either by additions, pools, or entire homes themselves to the rear of the lot. And I would also think that while we're backing to commercial, where we're not really impacting any neighboring, residential property behind us, that especially in that case, I could see where we're really not doing anybody any harm by being a bit closer to that setback. I don't know if I can pull up some examples of some of the properties. I know that's not one of the criteria on that Carlos mentioned, but just to note.
Thank you.
I have a question. Is there a way to make the garages, both of them, smaller to have them be within the setback, or is that not possible?
There's really 2 issues with that. One is the sheer size of the van, which is ordered and we're taking delivery in a few weeks, in about 2 weeks. It just, to be able to get in and out, for the driver to enter and exit the van, and for the clearance of that of the lift, it just really could not get any slimmer to have the van operate. And the other garage bay, the first one, we have the issue of the bump out for the chimney that kind of causes the same problem for normal operation of a vehicle, to get in and out of the vehicle once you're in the garage.
Okay.
If we can go back to the plan real quick, to Jeff's plan.
I think the other thing to note is that really the only way for Victor to exit the home without ramps and really unattractive obstructions for the neighbors to see every day is through that door, alongside the chimney, and out that 3068 door next to the first garage bay.
Right.
So we want to allow clearance there. We need to allow the clearance to get the wheelchair lift out, and then obviously the considerations for the doors for this massive vehicle that it's not their daily driver, and I'm sure the neighbors, I would say within inside a week of them owning this thing in 2 weeks, the neighbors are probably not going to want to see it out in the driveway anymore either.
Nor do we want to keep it out there,
Expensive as they are, sure, Brendan.
So is there enough space for Victor then to, if the other car is in the garage, for him to actually go around that car and out that door, or would that car have to not be there for him to go out of that door?
So that's a good note or a good question, because that's also why it's been drawn the way that it is, so that there's enough clearance for him to come out of the door from the home, go in front of the vehicle, and then go around to the side and get onto the lift. This is where you see the vehicle is a bit offset to that side. That's why we've left just enough room to try and make this as small as possible, to allow for the wheelchair to maneuver around the vehicle and then onto the lift. It really could not get any smaller than this to make that work. We've tried to keep it as slim as possible to, still be able to not have to back out that first car every time that you want to enter the van with the wheelchair.
But then going from the second garage to the existing residence,
Mm-hmm.
would he have to go through the first garage?
Correct. Yeah. So if you're seeing, and this wall that where you kind of see the wheelchair platform, that wall that is kind of intersects, we've since updated this plan to remove that or make that opening a little larger. This is actually appears to be the first draft, but to make, Jeff, you can speak to that, but to give us a little more room there.
The reality is that the dashed line indicating the car in the first bay is absolutely not what Janet drives. Janet drives a little two-door, which will be, I would anticipate, 3 foot shorter than what we've drawn there.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Jeff or Brandon, this is Adrian speaking. I have a quick question. So does that door there in the upper left-hand corner of our screen, the 3068, there are 2 of those doors, but that upper left-hand corner, and then there's the exit from the residence. Is that door there, because, to piggyback off the earlier question, thinking about shaving the 4 feet, that door is actually creating your accessible entryway, because you don't have one elsewhere in the home, and that you're creating an accessible route through sort of the back door there at the top of the screen, and then to the left of our screen going out to that door. So that would be the primary sort of accessible entrance and exit route.
That's correct. Yeah, that's correct. The existing man door to get out to the driveway currently is just not wide enough it is just barely to be able to get the wheelchair in and out of the home.
And so this back door exit will be, his primary form to enter and exit the home, thereby widening the door to a suitable width and also providing a clear path out through the home with that additional door there on the left.
Correct.
Thank you.
How much room do you need in front of that wheelchair platform? 3 feet?
About 3 feet. The particular wheelchair that he's using is able to kind of almost really turn and pivot on a dime. So the idea here was to not make this any wider than we absolutely needed, because the vehicle that'll be parked in the first bay would be, kind of maneuvered as far to the left as it can. And then that way giving us just the amount of room that we need to be able to turn that wheelchair left and onto the lift.
And the purpose of the woodworking shop, again, the other arguments you're making are strong about the handicap.
Sure.
What about the woodworking?
Well, the woodworking room, in all honesty, is kind of my mother just retired this past year, only to now have this situation with Victor. The timing couldn't have been worse. And so after living in this house for 22 years and being a speech pathologist and really living, well below her means, she'd like to have a little space to do some of her own fun activities in the house as well. And so the idea is, if we can have this, if the garage requires a space from a depth perspective to come out into that backyard a little bit, to give her that little bit of flex space that she can do woodworking or craft stuff, that sort of thing, we thought it would be a good opportunity to give her that space as well.
By eliminating it, with that, is it? I guess this is for Jeff. Can you rework this at all to get that variance down from 24 feet to Wes?
You mean the 28 feet?
Yeah.
Well, as we just kind of went through, the dimension from the back of the house to the back of the new garage, there's really not a lot of play. I mean, the woodworking could maybe get smaller, but we wanted to work with simple forms. This is kind of a 50s contemporary home, and
Right.
you know, we wanted to kind of keep those clean lines and try to complement that architecture. You know, we might be able to take you see the 8-foot dimension at the top of the woodworking room there, if you will.
Yeah.
You know, if that came down to 6 potentially, or we could squeeze the 14-foot 3 1/4. You see that dimension between deck and woodworking. Maybe that could be squeezed down. But regarding clearances for doors and whatnot, I really don't see a way for us to get that primary means of egress for Victor to work out, and then the maneuverability of wheelchairs and car doors without getting banged up. You know, short of ripping that fireplace out, but then that really kind of ruins the living room.
Yeah.
The only thing, have you guys, I mean, just a consideration, have you guys thought of like moving that storage room to the west side of the bathroom and then sliding the oversized garage up to meet that bathroom? And if you did, I know you're going to lose that additional garage space for the car, but you would still have all the accessibility needs to meet, you know,
That is correct. However, you're really devaluing the home in that case. And you know, with the future plans for the existing garage, the fact that, you know, as Janet mentioned, I guess Janet's no longer with us here. You know, as Janet mentioned, there's a lot of equipment that comes with, you know, someone in Victor's condition, as well as that's kind of his little place to go feel human, you know, again. It leaves her car outside, it devalues the home, you know, so there's all these kind of variables that really start to not justify the project. You know, I would anticipate appraisal value would not be as high as what this project is going to cost them. You know, if the disability was not in question, this would just be an oversized garage on the back of the home.
I'm still here.
Oh, there she is.
Okay.
I'm still here. Sorry.
You know, we could, with that primary route out, I mean, we could take a couple of feet out there, but then we're looking at a ramp on the front of the house, most likely to get in and out. And that's really not going to be pleasing to the neighbors. And I'd hate to have to present that to the architecture design review board. I don't know that they'd be happy about that. Carlos, is that something that would need to go through PCDC, putting a ramp and railing on the front of the house?
Not necessarily a ramp and railing.
Okay. Do you think that would cause a torch and pitchfork witch hunt with all the neighbors?
No, I mean, and these, you know, again, I want to remind the board, while this is a good, healthy discussion about design, the interior needs and accessibility, they have nothing to do with the variance process. And I, you know, I'm sorry that, but I need to state that. Regarding the ramp, railings, and access, again, the code takes into account to allowing provisions to provide the bare minimum. So if there is a resident and all of that that needs to have accessible access to lead to their front door, we, through the permitting process, are going to go above and beyond to make sure that the code minimum is permitted without, you know, in there. You know, the code is what establishes what I guess is 3068 doors are and all. You know, they're going to be permitted. The code says it can be done, and they're going to, those building requirements will take those minimums again, because you can always ask for more in there, but there are specific minimums to make sure that they're viable and usable according to industry standards. They're going to trump the zoning requirements of any setback or even aesthetic issues.
Jeff, what is the approximate dimensions of the small garage?
Of the small garage, it's about a 14-foot wide out to out. So I'd say it's just under 14 feet inside dimension. And then if we're 34 from 8, you're about a 26 minus 5, you're about 20 feet deep.
Did you? So, Carlos, can we go to maybe the other one? It looks like on the left-hand side, the thumbnail one. Can we go take a look at that one?
This one here?
Yeah. So, did you guys give thought of how to, whether we could snuggle that small garage, almost kind of flip it, I guess, perpendicular and snuggle it up, I guess, to the right of the existing addition, so that basically you'd have one garage that would come off to the left, one garage will come off to the right. But if you're roughly 12.5 feet there by 20, that seems a little short of what your existing garage is, but it would seem though it'd be within the side yard, wouldn't infringe too much on the driveway. It might be able to then, if you moved it over, then we could shift a good portion of this addition into that scenario, into that area, acknowledging that it may still need to be a little bit bigger because of the fireplace.
Yeah, so I understand what you're saying there, and we looked at about 24 options. We sat in their living room for roughly 3 hours trying to sketch out and figure out how to make it work. Talking about a small 2-door car is going in the other bay. That's why a 20-foot deep garage works. Typical garage is 24 feet. The problem there is that you have to be able to take that car and swing it around 180 degrees for the rear entry garage that you are talking about. And the reality is we don't have that much space. We've got, you've got 20 feet to the side of the house. So you see the 12.5-foot dimension at the back of the house here, or back of the garage, I should say. That would all consume the garage bay, and you have to imagine driving up this driveway, and then in this back drive apron area, swinging a probably 15 or 16 foot long car, do a U-turn in that in order to pull into that garage. Otherwise, you're pulling up, backing in, and then backing down the driveway every day, which is certainly not the safest way to exit. So this allows them to back out, turn the back end of the car toward that retaining wall, and then leave front facing, and also return and park front facing. So yeah, I understand what you're saying. We did look at that option. We looked at, where it says concrete in the backyard there. We looked at how can we do that. That cuts literally every bit of natural light out of the house and renders the backyard kind of useless, because they'd be paving and creating more water runoff than I'm sure anybody in Olivet would like to see happen. And then, as you can see, the left-hand side of the home right now, where you see the 25.0 feet dimension, that side of the home is already over the side yard setback line. So there's so many possibilities, but I think every single one of them that actually works functionally and ergonomically would require some form of variance. And again, as I mentioned earlier, that retaining wall is obscene. It devalues the property. If I'm the buyer, I can tell you that much. And it goes across the neighbor's yard. And so the more we build to that right side, the more we enclose the neighbor's yard, because they've already got, again, a 6-foot retaining wall with a 6-foot chain link fence with mesh on it, already taking over their rear yard.
All right. Anybody else?
I have a question for Carlos. Carlos,
Yes, sir.
detached garages. I know we've recently reviewed things. How does a detached garage in the rear yard setbacks work?
Let's see. They are permitted a 10-foot rear yard setback. But they also have to be at least 5 feet from the space from the home, but they are required to meet the side yard setback. And usually that's the most difficult part, because you typically want to drive straight through.
And if I might chime in, we have an 8-foot easement that we cannot build in on the back of the property there.
Right. There's a power transformer that's on that back right corner of the lot.
Correct.
Yeah. You can probably see it from the, yeah.
You can see how a neighbor's taking advantage.
Right.
To accommodate that by code. Right here.
Yeah. Yeah, the placement of their home sort of allows for it, but then again, in their case, you have to imagine backing a diesel powered 88 van back that driveway day after day.
Jeff, did you consider at all? I know you said you looked at all these options, but to restore the original garage as a garage and just add in the back there, I guess it would be adding space to the right of the powder room and the storage room for the sculpture area, just like one big rectangle. If that was one oversized car space, would that fit into the setback requirements?
Only if we made the garage front entry would that work. There's not enough dimension from the edge of the current garage door to the side property line to get a 20, I think it's 21 feet or something close to that long vehicle out of that garage and down the driveway.
By the garage being, the new garage being further to the middle of the lot, it allows enough room to actually back the van out of the garage pretty easily and then come out of the driveway forward. Where currently, yeah. Like
Well,
you
that
may
parking
notice.
would stay there.
Sorry.
It would just be adding on to the other end where the powder room was. So you still have the, oh, I see. You wouldn't be able to pull into that first spot with the van. Is that what you mean?
Right, yeah.
I see, okay.
All right. Anybody, any other thoughts?
May Victor say something?
He hasn't been sworn in, Mom.
May he be sworn in?
Sure.
Okay. He's here.
You please swear Victor in.
We need to promote him.
He's there.
Okay, great. Sorry, that's Victor Mueller. Do you
Victor
swear?
Bassman?
Victor Bassman.
I'm sorry?
Victor Bassman.
Okay, Victor. I still didn't get that last part.
Bassman, sorry.
Bassman, thank you.
No problem.
Victor Bassman. Do you swear that the evidence you shall give to the board in this action shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? So help you God.
I swear.
Victor, what would you like to say?
Well, I truly have only had a portion of the conversation, but I know that Brandon and Janet have gone to extreme efforts to make the area here both comfortable and aesthetic and to take care of my needs. And I think for those of you who happen to walk the streets here, you would find the only house on the block that's going to be as curated in terms of its. I have to tell you that my history is that I lived condos. I don't like to do anything on the outside, and the environment of what is going on here is incredible, and I think that anything that can be added, I know it's going to be done in this most incredible sensitivity as to need and look for the family. And I'm hoping that good things can come from the debate.
Great, thank you. Anybody have any questions? All right, I'd like to close the public session and talk amongst ourselves, if that's okay with everybody.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Guys, what are your thoughts?
My heart goes out for the situation. You
Yeah.
know, I think the efforts and everything that they're doing, go beyond itself of what they're trying to do and what they're trying to accomplish. But I do understand Carlos's concerns with, going beyond that 20-foot setback. I think I would be more comfortable, I still think we could get the oversized garage in, get the space in front, readjust some things. I'd feel more comfortable personally with that. But, yeah, that's just my initial thoughts, but I really feel, bad for the situation.
Absolutely.
That's a terrible situation, but I agree with you completely, Rob. It's really a hard decision to make, but it's not clear to me that they've exhausted all possible options. And if they were confined to less of a ideal plan, they may have to just make it work. It's just a feature of the property that makes it very difficult. And I feel very bad for them, but I think it really does not meet code. And I'm not persuaded that they've exhausted all possible options.
Well, that's not they don't need to exhaust all possible options, right? I mean, we have to look at the standard here, which is the unique circumstance and the practical difficulties. And if it sounds like they've met those two prongs to me. If it's a non-conforming lot, it seems to me that if in the broad definition of unique circumstance, that would apply and meet that prong. And the second prong of practical difficulties, I mean, I think they've clearly stated their case there related to the van and the disability points that they've made. So that's the way I've been looking at it. And I mean, I have to believe them that they have exhausted a lot of options in thinking about the design, and I think with that large easement in the back, there's some other difficulties with the lot. Certainly try not to, and I agree with the point, we can't let, sort of emotions govern how we decide, but just looking at the standard that we're being held to, it would seem to me that they've met the standard for the variance.
Any other?
This is Adrian. I'm obviously I don't have a vote today, but in hearing them out and understanding, I mean, having dealt with something similar for my father-in-law, it's a utter nightmare, and you feel like you just can't catch a break. They're trying to make the best out of a situation, and I agree with the non-conforming lot and the uniqueness of the situation. Certainly, I think we'd all prefer the 4 feet, off, so it wasn't such a big deal. But we don't have anybody protesting this. They backed a commercial space. They have this non-conforming lot, which if it were a conforming lot, it wouldn't be a question. I would tend to side with Malik.
And I just got a question about that. The non, I mean, this is a lot that's pretty typical in all of that. It's a rectangular
Yes.
shape. It's maybe not a non-conforming, but how much would that impact? If it was 150 feet, would they be able to do this?
So the rear yard setback would increase proportionately.
I guess that also assumes that they would have built the house where they would have built it with the size lot that they would have built it, or the size lot that they had as well.
I'm very sympathetic to the needs. I mean, without getting into it, I mean, we've all experienced this, hopefully, maybe not, but I know I'm going through it with a really good friend of mine right now. Having said that, I just think it's too much of I just can't see granting the variance as they're requesting it at this time, personally.
I got one other question to just kind of discuss, and maybe the attorneys on this, board will be able to help out. But are we subject to any ADA, requirements? At least reasonable, I didn't think so, but I just thought I'd throw that out there just to, if we had to, consider reasonable accommodation.
No, I did check with Mr. Martin on that subject, and he indicated that there was none. And if anything was brought up, that the commission defer action and that he would attend the next meeting.
I also just wanted to add one thing about the accessible entryway. I mean, versus putting a ramp and whatnot at the front, which has its own sort of visual lack of appeal, right? It seems very accommodating for accessibility to have this path that's easy in and out of that back door versus, requiring some form of ramp installation in the front, which is less appealing, probably not that great for resale. I mean, a lot of kind of cons come with a ramp. It's harder to get in and out. I mean, it would be very accommodating to have that accessible widened doorway, entrance and exit near an accessible bathroom, near the accessible vehicle.
I don't disagree. It's really that other added garage that's kind of pushing everything to the rear property line.
Right.
And that is, that's where I have the potential, hesitation on. If the whole thing slid up, more where you still could, have the powder room, have the access that you need, in and out of the van, excess storage space, maybe they could then reuse the existing, garage, and it might require some additional garage space, or additional depth, if you will, or more storage space, to make this work. But it would be, I would think, closer to the, to the setbacks that I think we're all hoping for.
I think that's
And-
what,
Go on, guys.
I am really sympathetic, as everyone is, about this. Having the second car space, of course, is ideal for them, but it's not a requirement for the person that they're accommodating. So, I mean, it really could fit into the setback requirement, and maybe even if they were granted that minimum 20 feet and they got the extra 4 feet, so they could swing into the garage with one space. It's a small house and a small property, and so yeah, again, it's ideal, but is it something that is an absolute necessity to have that additional second space? I think that's kind of where I'm hung up on. And
I think, yeah, I was hung up on that too. I didn't mean to interrupt you. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, I mean, and as we were talking about the original garage, again, it's ideal that you're going to use the original garage for sculpture space, but I feel like that maybe could be added long ways in the back. You know, there's whatever other design they could do and still try to make that first garage, the original garage, work so she could put her car in there. Sounds like her car has been out, you know, for almost a year now in the driveway. So it sounds like maybe she did use the garage beforehand. That wasn't clear to me. I don't know if she ever had the garage space as a garage.
I think she said she was using it.
I think they had used it.
They had used it. Okay.
I think if this was coming in front of us and they were asking for a few extra feet to put garage 2 where garage 1 was, to accommodate the chimney and the wheelchair ramp, and so they were into the setback of several feet, I think I'd be looking at this a lot differently.
No question about it.
I would agree.
Because I think I've heard this from some of my colleagues that if we can bump out the powder room, the storage room, the woodworking, they have space. I want to say east to west, but that may be wrong.
Right.
To the west.
It's going to enclose that patio. You could make a little bit of a courtyard and do some design aspects there. That's not really for us to decide, though. But
that's what I meant when I said I don't really explore all the options, and I'm hung up with the code thing. I can't vote for it this way.
Yeah. It's certainly not ideal to have a split garage, you know, one garage at one point and another garage at another point. I acknowledge that. I just, yeah. It just looks like, go ahead.
I think we could put this to a vote. I'd like to have a motion read, please.
I'm actually
Is that all right?
I'm fine with that. I have no additional comments.
Is the motion already written?
Yes, I'll get to it in just a second.
Sorry.
I mean, if anybody has anything else said, please, I don't want to,
It's very difficult.
It's horrible.
The worst one we ever had, I can recall, in 7 or 8 years.
I'd be happy to make the motion. Motion to grant a 13-foot variance to the required rear yard setback under section 400.260 for the property at 29 Crabapple Court to permit the construction of an addition as illustrated in the plans dated April 7th, 2021, as prepared by Jeff Day and Associates LLC, 11 feet from the north rear yard property line.
Have a second?
Second.
Carlos, would you like to take a vote and clarify what we're voting, please?
Sure. Chairman, I'm just going to note that the motion was made by Board Member Jurgel and it was seconded by Board Member Cicero. All right. On that motion was to grant the variance as submitted. That's to authorize a 13-foot variance to permit an 11-foot rear yard setback as opposed to the 24 rear yard setback required by code as illustrated in the plans that were submitted and presented before you. On that motion to grant, I'll go here. Mr. Zobel,
No.
Mr. Malik,
Yes.
Mr. Jurgel,
No.
Mr. Cicero,
No.
Chairman Gerstein.
No,
And of course, we do have our two alternates that appreciate you being available and asking questions on that. But I think at this point, the motion would fail with 4 of the full members voting against the motion as submitted. All right. And Chairman will reach out with the applicants and see if there are any other opportunities to consider regarding the design scenarios, or if there are any options in which the setback can be reduced and the petition brought back. We'll work with them and try to expedite that as best we can.
Carlos, would you like to fill us in on what's going on in Olivet? We drive down Olivet, I see nothing going on at all.
Real quickly, it's been a pretty busy year, both on the residential and commercial side. First and foremost, of course, we're glad we got Dawn Doty. She comes with a vast experience from the county and various economic development organizations in the metropolitan area. So we're looking, and she has already set an impact in our businesses. She's now like the matchmaker because she brought 2 organizations together to utilize some excess space that they had in there, and she did that within the first 4 weeks, and then she took a vacation. So on the development side, we're seeing a lot of new single family homes coming back again. Some of the holdup right now, of course, are material costs, and several developers just kind of holding off until those costs come back more into line. But we're seeing development both north and south of Olive, which is always good and healthy for the community, especially if it's done in a fashion that is sensitive to the surrounding neighborhoods and such. And our commissions are doing a good job on that. On the commercial side, starting on the western end of town, the plans for the city's new community center have been submitted or being reviewed for the building permit to be issued. This would include I believe it's a 25,000 plus square foot community center that will have a gymnasium, a recreation facility, fitness facility, meeting rooms, kitchenette for kitchen teachings and things of that nature, and an indoor playground for children in there. And then it will include improvements to Warson Park, which include a bike trail running from Warson Road all the way through the north side of Indian Meadows on the northern end of town to Dealman in there, and it will start creating what will be pretty much a full off-road loop around the city of Olivet for bicycle uses or uses. Going down towards Olive Boulevard, if you've seen the old City Hall facility, which is called the City Center Redevelopment Area, that is being constructed into a 148 unit multifamily building. They're starting to work on the 3rd floor. It's a 4-story building with the attached parking garage. That one the garage has been completed. And then there'll be a retail component that'll be where the old smokehouse or smokeland used to be, which was the concrete masonry retail strip that was adjacent to that area. So we're looking forward to that. Across the street from there, where the old used to be an old Ponderosa that had been vacant for over 10 years, that has been raised and that is being converted into a 15,000 square foot commercial center. It's a 1.5-story building with retail on the lower level and then some office on the upper levels, kind of mezzanine type spaces. Its primary anchor will be Plant Haven Farms, which operates a seasonal garden center on the other side of the bowling alley, which is adjacent to this parcel. they are going to create a year-round gift shop and gardening center as part of that building, and then have at least two to three other tenants in that facility. On the other side of the bowling alley is what we call Easy Storage. That's a 5-story indoor storage facility with retail on the base. They are trying to resolve some issues with county regarding how properties are assessed, not just in the Olivet area, but through the county wide. But we hope that they will restart construction by late November in there. So that is still moving forward. The old Olivet 66, if anybody knew George Burford, who operated that station since 1988, I believe. He sold it to Firestone, or a group that does realty for Firestone. The existing service station, which is there at the corner of Gilman and Olive, and includes the Veterans Fountain, all that is being raised, and the new Firestone facility is being built. I think it's a 7-bay facility. It will be up by the street. So again, it kind of reflects some of the vision of our strategic plan or a comprehensive plan. And in addition to that, Firestone has redesigned and will be building a new Veterans Fountain area that will include a small little pocket passive park, a new water element in that corner. And that's being done collaboratively with the city, and which also includes members of the Olivet and Bloom, who will be in charge of doing some of their year-round plantings along that corner. They've been doing that, I believe, since if I heard right, the 60s in there. So that group will continue to do planting at that end. And then as you head towards 170, we have 2 active projects that are going on. One is the Olives Crossing, which is being developed by the Keats Properties and the Keeley Group. It's the same group that owns the shops at Price Crossings. That is starting. The first phase of construction will start, I believe, within the next 2 months, which will include a multifamily residential apartment building. After that, the commercial, there's about 15,000 square feet of commercial that'll go along the street. They're still trying to pursue a grocer to be part of that development area. And then it includes an office building and a hotel in their master development plan. Then to the north of that, right behind Chevy's and the CVS, the Opus Group has assembled 23 single-family properties, has received a first reading on rezoning that to create I believe it's a 208 unit or 248 unit multifamily building, approximately 4 stories in that area. That area will connect with the Centennial Trail, which is that greenway or bike trail that will eventually extend from 170, go along Olive Crossing, have a pedestrian crossing on Olive Boulevard to the southeast corner of Chevy's, and then kind of turn around, go through Chevy's, connect with this Opus Group development project, head through the industrial park, and then end up at Worson Park, Indian Meadows, which goes to Worson Park. So those are the current active things that are going on within the city of Olivet. Our neighbor to the east in University City, they've already started demolition for their redevelopment area, which includes both north and south of Olive. I believe the first part of the project will be the Costco. Not sure on the scheduling for the remaining portions, but you'll see a lot of active demolition going on that side. Our neighbor to the west, which is in Creve Coeur, they're doing improvements to the Lindbergh and Olive intersection. They're essentially going to get rid of the cloverleaf merging lanes and create 2 signalized intersections at Olive and Lindbergh. So you would, there'd be signalized on each side of the bridge, and you won't have that cloverleaf merging lane anymore. In addition to that, north of that at at Lindbergh and Old Olive Boulevard, right now you can't cross. There's a median on Lindbergh to avoid you getting from east to west. That median is actually going to be removed, and a new signalized intersection will allow people going on Old Olive to continue onto Old Olive, onto the Old Olive on the western side where the theater is at. So there's a lot of activity going on along the corridor. I'm glad to answer any specific questions on there. So
I do have a question. I noticed along the canal by Price, what is all that bulldozing along there? Is that to improve water or storm drainage?
good
Or is
question.
that, yeah.
That is a one of three major metropolitan sewer district projects that were being conducted in our community. The one that runs along Price and eventually will run along the bike trail south of Ingle. That is a new sanitary line. It's called the Lindley Road Sanitary Line Project, and essentially it will resolve a lot of backup issues that occurred in Oak Estates because of the undersizing of some of the infrastructure. And there was another one that was going on that's part of what they call the 82nd Street sanitary improvement, and that is again to help alleviate some sanitary issues and backup issues that happened more towards University City, but in this case will also help alleviate some along Hilltop, where that Chevy's area is at. The third project was the one that we saw not far from you, and probably Mr. Hartman is pretty familiar with, was the Cherry Tree improvements. That was a stormwater project that the Metropolitan Sewer District was doing, and it looks like that's coming to completion. Actually, I think that was a water line that was being improved. And there we did have that one took longer than what we had hoped for, but it seems like that project has come to an end, because that did disrupt Ingle and that Crabapple area.
That looks like they finished.
Yes.
Great, thank you.
Mhm.
Lots of progress.
Yay,
All right.
guys, thank you. We done?
Thank you. I appreciate you, all you guys showing up, specifically Don and Adrian. Thanks.
Thank you. Good
Thank you,
night,
guys.
everyone.
Thank you all.
Yes, and I want to thank everyone, again, short notice and more people than we needed. So that is an outstanding response. I really do appreciate that. It shows the dedication you guys have. I really wanted to quickly say that all the stuff that Carlos just spilled out about what's going on in the city as far as construction is concerned is a result of us trying to adhere to our strategic plan. And that was ongoing work. I know I got involved when I got involved with the city in 2007, just after the strategic plan was adopted. And in the various positions I've been in since then, we have been working on that strategic plan, the city, the staff, the commissions. And what you're seeing now is the fruition of that effort over that time. The city council is also putting in the budget for next year an update to our strategic plan, because we have accomplished a lot of the goals in our strategic plan, so that they're in the current one. And so we will be updating that to reflect, to get input from it and try to chart the next few years. But I just want to say that, what you're seeing is the result of an effort that's been going on for quite some time. And many people made it successful. Just quickly, the Turkey Trot will be back live this year in person. So if you're interested in that. And there's Coffee with the Mayor on Wednesday, July 14th at 8:45. And it will be the Great Rivers Greenway talking about, the project in Olivet. And it is available in person or live stream. So if you want to stay in your jammies and look at it, you can do that. And for that, again, I just thank everyone. Thank you. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Guys.
Thank you all.
Yeah.
Good night,
You're in
Thank you.
848.
Everyone.
I was